The big meeting room of the Galaxy Council was full of strange sounds and lights. 12 different alien races sat in their special bubble homes that kept them alive. Each bubble had the right air and temperature for each type of alien. The Zephyrians floated in yellow gas that smelled like rotten eggs. The crystal beings, called Vorthak, made bright flashing lights to talk to each other. The bug-like hegemony clicked their mouthparts loudly. In the middle of all this stood Jake Morrison. He was the human ambassador. His simple spacesuit looked very plain next to all the fancy alien equipment. His face was tired and sad. He had seen too many bad things happen to his people. Jake looked around the room at all the alien faces. Some looked bored. Others looked angry. None of them looked like they wanted to listen to what he had to say. But he had to try. He had to warn them. "Important council members," Jake said into his microphone. His words came out of speakers around the room in all the different alien languages. "I am here today to give you a warning. This warning could save many lives." The big bug creature that led the council meeting started making clicking sounds. Her name was Vexthara, and she was the chancellor. The clicking sounds meant she was laughing. "Now the humans want to give us warnings," she said. "How funny. Your people have only been part of our galaxy group for 50 years. You're still babies." Jake felt angry, but he kept his voice calm. 3 days ago, the Corvan Empire attacked our colony world called New Denver. They used big guns from space to burn the whole planet. 2 million people died. Many of them were children. All around the room, the aliens started making noise. But it was not worried noise. It was the sound of aliens who did not care. The Corvan representative was a big armored creature called General Thokmar. He leaned forward in his metal suit. "The human settlement was in the wrong place," General Thokmar said. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "We had the right to attack them. The treaty says so. There were families there," Jake said. His voice was still calm but getting colder. "There were people who grew food. There were teachers. There were children who had never even seen Earth." General Thokmar moved his shoulders in what might have been a shrug. His armor made scraping sounds. "Sometimes people die when species try to grow bigger. Maybe your people should learn where they belong in the galaxy." Jake looked around the room again. He saw aliens who looked bored. He saw aliens who looked mean. He saw aliens who seemed to think this was all very funny. None of them cared that 2 million humans had died. "I am here to tell you something important," Jake said. "If you keep doing this, if you think you can kill humans without any punishment, you will face something none of you understand." "What might that be, Ambassador?" Chancellor Vexthara asked. The way she said it made it clear she thought Jake was stupid. "Humans will hunt you forever," Jake said in a quiet voice. "We do not forgive. We do not forget. And we never ever stop." The room exploded with alien laughter. It was a horrible sound. The water aliens made musical trills. The dog-like Corvan soldiers made barking sounds. The gas creatures made whooshing noises. They all thought Jake was making a joke. "Your species has only 8 billion people on 12 worlds," said the trade minister from the Nexari. "The Corvan Empire alone controls 47 star systems with 1 trillion subjects." Jake reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. He put it on the speaking platform. A picture appeared in the air showing the burned remains of New Denver. The ground was black and cracked. Twisted metal stuck up from the dirt like broken bones. Nothing was alive. "This is what you did to us 3 days ago," Jake said quietly. "I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember that you laughed." Jake picked up his papers and started walking to the door. When he got there, he turned around one last time. All the aliens were still making their laughing sounds. "When the hunting begins," Jake said, "when your worlds burn and your fleets disappear into empty space, remember that you were warned. Remember that you chose this." The big doors closed behind Jake with a heavy sound. The aliens went back to their meeting. They were already forgetting about the human and his silly warning. They had important things to talk about, like trade routes and territory borders. None of them knew that far away in human space, different meetings were happening. In secret rooms on Earth and the other human worlds, military leaders were making plans. These plans would change the galaxy forever. Admiral Kate Sullivan sat in a dark room on Earth looking at pictures of the dead colony. Around the table sat the heads of human military forces, intelligence services, and special operations. Their faces were hard and angry. "The political solution has failed," Admiral Sullivan said. "The aliens do not respect warnings. They do not understand diplomacy. They only understand force. General Bob Carson nodded. He was in charge of special operations. "What are our orders, Admiral?" "Find them," Admiral Sullivan said. "Hunt them, kill them, make them understand that human lives matter." "What about the other alien races?" asked Director Linda Price from Intelligence. "The ones who are not directly involved?" "They had their chance to stop this," Admiral Sullivan replied. "They chose to laugh instead. They will learn, along with the Corvins, what it means to make humans angry." The meeting went on for hours. Plans were made. Resources were assigned. Orders were given. By the time the meeting ended, the human response was already beginning. In secret shipyards hidden in asteroid fields, new types of ships were being built. These ships were not like the big warships most aliens used. They were small and fast and hard to see. They were built for hunting, not for fair fights. Meanwhile, the Galaxy Council finished their meeting and went back to their homeworlds. They talked about trade and politics and territory. None of them talked about the human warning. It was just too silly to take seriously. Chancellor Vexithera returned to her insect world and filed a report about the meeting. In the report, she wrote that the humans were upset about their lost colony, but would probably get over it soon. She recommended that the Council keep an eye on human expansion, but saw no immediate threat. General Thokmar went back to his command ship and celebrated with his officers. They had struck a blow against human expansion and faced no real consequences. In his mind, this proved that humans were weak and could be pushed around without fear. The other alien races went about their normal business. The Nexari counted their money. The Zephyrians floated in their gas clouds. The Vorthak pulsed their lights in complex patterns. Life in the galaxy went on as it always had. But something had changed. Something important and dangerous. The humans had been pushed too far. They had lost too much, and they had made a promise. In the darkness between stars, the first human hunter ships were already moving toward their targets. 6 months had passed since Jake Morrison delivered his warning to the Galaxy Council. The aliens had forgotten all about the angry human ambassador and his silly threats. But in the outer edges of Corvin space, strange things were starting to happen. General Thokmar stood in the command center of his massive warship, called Fist of Dominion. The ship was as big as a small city and carried enough weapons to destroy entire planets. He was looking at reports that made him feel worried for the first time in many years. His assistant, Commander Vektal, pointed to red marks on the big star map. Each red mark showed where something bad had happened to Corvin ships. "Sir, we have lost contact with 17 ships in the past month," Vektal said. "No distress calls, no wreckage, no survivors." "Pirates," General Thokmar growled, but his voice did not sound sure. "Send more patrol ships to those areas." What General Thokmar did not know was that 3 light-years away, Captain Lisa Chen sat in the small bridge of her stealth ship called Silent Hunter. Her ship was tiny compared to the big Corvin warships, but it had something they did not have. It was completely invisible to their sensors. Lisa looked at the same star map that General Thokmar was studying, but she saw it very differently. Each red mark represented a successful hunt. Each missing Corvin ship was one step closer to justice for the children who died on New Denver. "Target found," said her weapons officer, Lieutenant Ben Parker. "Corvin heavy cruiser called Iron Talon. It is following shipping route Delta 7. Lisa studied the enemy ship through her telescope. It was huge, maybe 10 times bigger than her ship. It had thick armor and many guns. Any normal military commander would never attack such a target with a small ship. But Lisa was not a normal military commander. She was a hunter. "Fire silent torpedoes," she ordered. All of them. The weapons launched without any flash or heat signature. They used cold gas to push them forward, making them invisible to enemy sensors. They hit the Corvin cruiser's engines at the same time, breaking the ship but not destroying it completely. "They are asking us to surrender," Ben reported, listening to the enemy radio. The Corvin response came back in their harsh language. They were telling the humans to go away using very rude words. Lisa smiled, but her smile was cold and mean. "Record that message and add it to our files. Send out the hunters." From the Silent Hunter's cargo bay, 6 small attack craft flew out. They were barely bigger than fighter planes, but each one carried a human pilot and enough firepower to cut through heavy armor. They swarmed around the disabled cruiser like angry wasps. 47 minutes later, the Iron Talon was a dead ship floating in space. Every Corvan on board was dead, but the ship itself was mostly undamaged. This was not an accident. The humans wanted the Corvans to find the ship and see exactly what had happened. Lisa wrote her mission report with calm precision. Target eliminated. No human casualties. Sending tactical data to Fleet Network. All across human space, similar reports were coming in from dozens of hunter teams. Each team worked alone, following simple orders that had come from the highest levels of human command. Find them, kill them, make it hurt. The Corvan Empire's first response was exactly what the humans expected. They sent more patrol ships. They made their defenses stronger. They issued angry threats about what would happen to anyone who attacked Imperial forces. But the attacks did not stop. They got worse. Within 3 months, the Corvan military had lost over 200 ships to what they were calling ghost attacks. No human fleet had been seen. No big battles had been fought. But their ships kept disappearing with clockwork regularity. Commander Roy Mitchell was operating deep inside enemy territory in his stealth ship called Vengeance. His target was a Corvan supply station orbiting a gas giant. The station was heavily defended, and the Corvans thought it was impossible to attack. Roy's ship carried something new. Human engineers had built it specifically for this war. They called it a planet cracker, but its real name was the Gravitational Resonance Torpedo. Target the station's main supports, Roy told his weapons officer, Lieutenant Amy Ross. One shot, center mass. The torpedo flew toward its target. Instead of exploding, it created a small area where gravity went crazy. When it hit the station's central hub, the strange gravity effect tore the massive structure apart from the inside. Pieces of the station fell down into the gas giant's atmosphere like burning rain. But Roy was not finished. As Corvan rescue ships rushed to help survivors, he sent a message on all radio frequencies. This is for New Denver. We told you we would hunt you forever. We meant it. The message and video of the station's destruction reached every corner of Corvan space within hours. For the first time since the war began, there was real fear in the Empire's military communications. Captain Danny Rodriguez was hunting near the Corvan home system in his ship called Retribution. His target was a convoy of transport ships carrying supplies to the front lines. The convoy was protected by 6 warships, but Danny had learned that protection meant nothing against human tactics. Danny's ship approached the convoy while pretending to be a broken civilian vessel asking for help. The Corvan escort ships moved closer to investigate. This was exactly what Danny wanted. Now, he said quietly. The Retribution's disguise fell away as hidden weapons ports opened. Missiles streaked out in all directions, each one programmed to hit a specific target. The 6 escort ships were destroyed before they could even raise their shields. The transport ships tried to run, but they were too slow and too big. Danny's crew hunted them down one by one, making sure to record everything for later broadcast. Message to Corvan Command, Danny said into his radio. Your children on New Denver asked for help too. No one came. Now you know how it feels. Back on his command ship, General Thakmar watched the reports pile up on his desk. Each one told the same story. Corvan ships attacked. Corvan ships destroyed. No human casualties. No human ships captured. No human prisoners taken. How many ships have we lost this week? He asked Commander Vektal. 37 confirmed destroyed, Vektal replied. 14 more are missing and presumed lost. And how many human ships have we destroyed? The silence that followed was answer enough. General Thakmar looked out the window of his command ship at the stars. Somewhere out there in the darkness, human hunters were prowling. They moved like ghosts between the stars, striking without warning and disappearing before any response could be mounted. For the first time since he had ordered the attack on New Denver, General Thakmar began to understand what the human ambassador had really meant. This was not a war in any sense that the Corvans understood. This was an extermination. The hunt had truly begun. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting as scary reports came in from all over Corvan space. What had started as small attacks had grown into something that looked like real war, but it was unlike any war the galaxy had ever seen before. Chancellor Vexithara sat at her big desk reading intelligence reports with growing shock. The numbers did not make sense, they could not be real, but report after report said the same impossible things. How many ships has the Corvan Empire lost in the past year? She asked her assistant. 837 confirmed destroyed, the Nexari intelligence minister replied. Another 200 are listed as missing and probably destroyed. And human losses? We think fewer than 3,000 across all fights. The room became very quiet. The math was crazy. For every human who died, almost 400 Corvins had been killed. This kind of battle record had never been seen in galactic history. Admiral Kate Sullivan sat in the visitor section of the council chamber. Officially, she was there as a human military observer. Really, she was a spy gathering information. She watched the alien delegates try to understand what they were seeing and felt satisfied, though she hid it well. "How is this possible?" demanded the Aquarian representative. "The humans have no major battle fleets in Corvin space. Our own spies confirmed their main warships are still in their home systems." Admiral Sullivan stood up slowly. "Honored delegates, may I speak to the council?" Chancellor Vexathera's jaw parts clicked with annoyance. "The human observer wants to talk." "If the council allows it," Sullivan replied with perfect politeness. "Very well. Explain to us how your species is doing this campaign." Sullivan turned on a holographic display showing the pattern of attacks across Corvin space. Red dots marked where human strikes had happened. They seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. "What you are seeing is not traditional military action," Sullivan said. "It is something my people call distributed warfare. We do not need huge fleets or long supply lines." She changed the display to highlight how the attacks seemed random, but were actually very planned. "Every human ship out there can take care of itself. They carry their own weapons, their own food, their own mission orders. They do not answer to one central command or follow normal battle plans." "Impossible," General Thokmar said through a communication link from his war zone. "No military force can work well without coordination." Sullivan's smile was thin and sharp like a knife. "General, you are thinking like an old-fashioned military commander. You see war as battles to win, land to hold, objectives to capture. We see it very differently." She touched another control and the display zoomed in on individual attack patterns. "Each one of those ships out there represents something you do not understand. They represent a human being who lost family on New Denver. They are not fighting for territory or politics. They are hunting the people who murdered their children." The chamber fell completely silent as the meaning sank in. "You cannot negotiate with them because they do not want deals," Sullivan continued. "You cannot scare them because they have already lost everything they cared about. And you cannot outrun them because they will literally chase you to the end of the galaxy if they have to." At that exact moment, Commander Rick Hayes was proving Sullivan's point. He was operating his deep strike ship called Nemesis in the core Corvin systems. His target was the Imperial War College on Corvin Prime. This was the most heavily defended world in the Empire. Rick had spent 8 months getting into the system. His ship was disguised as a civilian cargo hauler. He had studied patrol schedules, found weak spots, and planned his attack with the patience of a hunting animal. When he struck, it was with surgical precision. The War College's main building simply disappeared in a flash of antimatter fire. With it died 3 generations of Corvin military leaders and all their accumulated knowledge of war. The message Rick left behind was simple. War College graduates planned the attack on New Denver. Consider this their graduation ceremony. Back in the council chambers, General Thokmar's voice came through the speakers with desperation. "These attacks must stop. The Empire is prepared to pay money for the New Denver incident." Sullivan shook her head. "General, you still do not understand. This is not about money or political deals. When Ambassador Morrison warned you that humans would hunt you forever, he was not making a threat. He was telling you a simple fact." She pointed to the tactical display. "Every one of those ships represents a promise that New Denver's children will be avenged. And humans, General, always keep their promises." Captain Sandra Brooks was at that moment keeping such a promise. Her ship called Justice was hunting a Corvin admiral who had personally given orders to target civilian shelters during the New Denver attack. The admiral thought he was safe in a convoy of 12 warships. He was wrong. Sandra's ship came out of hyperspace right in the middle of the convoy. Before the Corvin ships could react, the Justice had fired a full spread of quantum torpedoes. 6 ships died in the first seconds. The remaining ships tried to run, but Sandra was faster. "Admiral Kevtar," she broadcast on open channels as her ship chased down the fleeing command vessel. "You targeted schools and hospitals on New Denver. You gave orders to kill children hiding in shelters. Today you pay for those orders." The Admiral's ship tried to surrender, but Sandra was not interested in prisoners. Her torpedoes found their target, and the command ship exploded in brilliant fire. "Promise kept," Sandra said quietly as she watched the wreckage burn. The Galactic Council session was ending in chaos as delegates realized they were watching something unprecedented. A species had taken the idea of revenge and turned it into an industrial process. The Nexari representative stood up nervously. "What does humanity want? What will make them stop?" Admiral Sullivan looked around the chamber at all the worried alien faces. "We want what we have always wanted, to be left alone to live our lives in peace. But if you attack us, if you kill our children, we will hunt you until justice is done." "And if we refuse to help the Corvins?" asked the Zephyrian delegate. "That is your choice," Sullivan replied. "But remember that you all laughed when Ambassador Morrison gave his warning. You all thought human threats were jokes. Perhaps you should consider what that means for your own futures." The meeting ended with no decisions made and no help offered to the dying Corvin Empire. Every species was now thinking the same thing. If the humans could do this to the mighty Corvin Empire, what could they do to smaller, weaker governments? Fear was spreading through the galaxy like a disease. The humans had become something no one had expected them to be. They had become the monsters that hunted monsters. And they were very good at their job. 2 years after the first human attacks, the Corvin Empire was no longer a real military power. Their fleet had been cut down to less than 30% of its original size. Their supply lines were broken. Their civilian population lived in constant terror of the invisible, human hunters that struck without warning and disappeared like ghosts. General Thokmar sat alone, in his armored bunker deep underground on Corvin Prime. The bunker had been built to protect the Empire's leaders from enemy attacks, but now it felt more like a tomb. He was reading casualty reports that got worse every day. The latest report came from Admiral Kevron, who commanded what was left of the Empire's core fleet. "Sir, we have lost the entire 4th Battle Group. They were protecting a convoy of civilian evacuation ships when they were hit by coordinated strikes from at least 12 human vessels. No survivors." Thokmar closed his eyes and tried to understand how his mighty empire had been brought to this point. 2 years ago he had called humans a minor species. Now that minor species was systematically destroying everything he had built. The answer was hunting in Corvin space at that very moment. Captain Danny Rodriguez commanded the human vessel Retribution. His ship had been killing Corvins for 18 months, and his crew had developed their own special way of delivering justice. Danny's target was the orbital shipyard above Corvin Prime. It was the Empire's last major industrial facility. But unlike the quick strikes that had marked the early phase of the war, this attack was designed to send a different kind of message. "Broadcasting on all Imperial frequencies," reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Grace Martinez. "Citizens of the Corvin Empire." Danny's voice echoed across the entire star system. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the human vessel Retribution. 2 years ago, your military leaders decided to murder 2 million innocent humans on New Denver. Your General Thokmar told our ambassador that these deaths were just casualties of expansion. The orbital shipyard's defenses came online. Fighter ships launched and defensive guns charged their weapons. Danny waited calmly as his ship's point defense systems destroyed the incoming attacks like they were annoying flies. Today you will learn what it means to be a casualty of our expansion," he continued. "But we are not like you. We do not target civilians. We do not murder children. We hunt only those who chose to become our enemies." The Retribution's main guns opened fire. The shipyard began to come apart in carefully controlled explosions. Each shot was aimed precisely to destroy military targets while leaving civilian sections untouched. "Your empire is finished," Danny announced as the last military facility was reduced to scrap metal. "But we offer you something your leaders never offered our children. We offer you a chance to live. Remove your military forces from all contested systems. Surrender your war criminals for trial. Do this and the hunting stops." The transmission ended, leaving the Corvin system in stunned silence. 3 days later, General Thokmar received a priority message from the Galactic Council. Chancellor Vexithera appeared on his screen. Her usual arrogance had been replaced by something that looked like panic. "General, the Council has voted unanimously to mediate this conflict," she said. "We cannot allow this hunting to continue. It sets a dangerous example for the entire galaxy." Thokmar laughed, but it was a bitter sound with no humor in it. "Mediate? Chancellor, there is nothing to mediate. The humans have made their position clear. They will accept nothing less than the complete surrender of everyone involved in the New Denver attack. Surely there must be some diplomatic solution." "The humans are not interested in diplomacy," Thokmar interrupted. "They want blood. They want justice. And they have the will and ability to take both." He pulled up a tactical display showing the current state of his empire. Red markers showed lost territories, destroyed fleets, and abandoned systems. "Look at this, Chancellor. Really look at it. We once commanded 47 star systems. Now we control 8. And those are only because the humans have not gotten around to taking them yet. The Council can provide military assistance." "With what?" Thokmar's voice rose to a roar. "Every species that supported the Empire's expansion policies is now terrified that they will be next on the human hunting list. No one wants to be associated with us." This was true across the galaxy. The Nexari had quietly cancelled all trade agreements with the Empire. The Zephyrian military had recalled their advisory missions. Even the militant hegemony was staying strictly neutral. Captain Lisa Chen was demonstrating why everyone was so scared. Her ship Silent Hunter was stalking a Corvin supply convoy near the border systems. The convoy was protected by the newest and most advanced Corvin warships, equipped with the latest anti-stealth technology. It did not matter. Lisa's ship had been upgraded with human technology that was 2 generations ahead of anything the aliens possessed. She moved through their sensor networks like a shark through dark water, invisible and deadly. "Target the lead escort," she told her weapons officer. "I want the others to see what happens when they try to run supplies to military targets." The torpedo hit the escort ship's reactor core. The explosion was so bright it could be seen from 3 star systems away. The remaining ships scattered, abandoning the supply convoy and fleeing for their lives. Lisa let them go. Fear was more useful than dead enemies sometimes. "Send a message to Corvin Command," she ordered. "Tell them that every supply convoy, every military transport, every ship carrying weapons or ammunition will be destroyed. Tell them the children of New Denver are still hungry for justice." Meanwhile, Commander Roy Mitchell was proving that nowhere in Corvin space was safe. His ship Vengeance had penetrated all the way to the heavily fortified Corvin Military Academy, on their second most important world. The academy was where young Corvins learned to become officers. It was protected by orbital defense platforms and 3 squadrons of elite fighter pilots. Roy destroyed it all in 17 minutes, but he did not stop there. As cadets evacuated the burning academy, Roy broadcast a message directly to them. "Young Corvins," his voice said over their emergency channels, "your teachers told you that humans were weak. Your generals told you that we would forget our dead and move on. Look around you. This is what happens when humans remember." Back in his bunker, General Thokmar received the reports of these attacks with growing despair. Each successful human strike made it clear that his empire was doomed. The humans had superior technology, superior tactics, and most importantly, superior motivation. "Chancellor," he said quietly during his next communication with the Galactic Council, "when your council laughed at the human warning 2 years ago, you doomed us all. You created an enemy that cannot be reasoned with, cannot be scared, and will not stop until justice is done." He ended the communication and sat back in his chair. Somewhere out there in the darkness between stars, human hunters were still prowling, still seeking their prey. The price of their laughter was becoming clear, and it was higher than anyone had imagined. The final act did not begin with a battle. It began with a funeral. On the human colony world of New Haven, 2 million empty graves stretched across a hillside that looked out over the ocean. Each marker had the name of someone who had died on New Denver, along with simple words that said, "They were warned." Admiral Jake Morrison stood at the center of the memorial. He was the former ambassador who had delivered the ignored warning 3 years ago. Around him stood the families of the dead and the crews of the hunter fleets that had spent 3 years taking their payment in blood. "Today," Morrison said, his voice carrying across the crowd, "we gather not to celebrate victory, but to remember why we fought. Above them in orbit, nearly 400 human ships hung in formation. These were the scattered hunter packs that had terrorized Corvin space for 3 years. They had finally come home. Among them was Captain Chen's Silent Hunter, Commander Mitchell's Vengeance, and Captain Rodriguez's Retribution. All of them bore the scars of 3 years of endless warfare. Morrison continued speaking. 3 years ago, the Galactic Council laughed when I told them that humans would hunt their enemies forever. They thought our grief would fade, our anger would cool, our determination would weaken. He pointed toward the ships in orbit. These vessels and their crews are the answer to their laughter. Far away in what remained of the Corvin Empire, General Thakmar was preparing to sign documents that would formally surrender not just his military forces, but himself and every officer involved in the New Denver attack to human justice. The ceremony took place aboard the human dreadnought Justice. This massive ship had been built specifically for this moment. Captain Sandra Brooks, who had lost her husband and daughter on New Denver, served as the judge. General Thakmar, she said formally, you are accused of crimes against humanity and the unprovoked destruction of the New Denver colony, and the murder of 2 million civilians. How do you plead? Thakmar looked around the courtroom. He saw the human officers who watched him with cold, unforgiving eyes. I plead guilty, he said quietly. I ordered the attack. The responsibility is mine. And do you understand the sentence for such crimes under human law? Death, Thakmar replied. I understand. Captain Brooks nodded. The sentence will be carried out at a time and place of our choosing. Until then, you will be held in custody along with your fellow conspirators. The trial was broadcast across the galaxy. Its conclusion sent shockwaves through every major government. The humans had done exactly what they said they would do. They had hunted their enemies across space and time until justice was served. 6 months later, the executions were carried out on New Denver itself. They took place on the exact spot where the first human casualties had fallen. General Thakmar and 47 of his officers faced human firing squads in front of the twisted memorial that had been built from the ruins of the colony, but the real message was delivered not by the executions, but by what came after. At the next session of the Galactic Council, Admiral Morrison took the speaking platform once again. The chamber that had once echoed with laughter was now filled with nervous silence. Honored delegates, Morrison began. 3 years ago I stood in this chamber and warned you that humans would hunt our enemies forever. You laughed. You dismissed our warning as the desperate words of a minor species. He turned on a holographic display showing the current state of Corvin space. 8 systems were under human occupation. Their remaining population lived under strict but fair human administration. The Corvin Empire no longer exists, Morrison continued. Its military has been destroyed, its leadership executed or imprisoned, its territory now administered by human colonial authorities. This was not conquest for its own sake. It was justice, pure and simple. Chancellor Vexithara found her voice with difficulty. Ambassador, surely now that justice has been served, your people will return to peaceful relations with the galaxy. Morrison's smile was cold as winter space. Chancellor, I want to be absolutely clear about something. The hunting never stops. It never ends. We will remember every human life that was taken unjustly, and we will collect payment for each one. He paused, letting his words sink in. But we are not conquerors. We are not interested in ruling other species or expanding our territory. We simply want to be left alone to live our lives in peace. And if we are not left alone, asked the Nexari representative nervously, then you will discover what the Corvins learned. Morrison replied simply, that when humans make a promise, we keep it. Forever. The council session ended in uncomfortable silence. Over the following months, a remarkable thing happened across the galaxy. Territorial disputes involving human colonies were quietly resolved in humanity's favor. Trade agreements were changed to more fair terms. The casual dismissal of human concerns that had marked galactic politics for decades simply stopped. Captain Lisa Chen was retiring from active hunting duty. She stood on the bridge of her ship Silent Hunter one last time, looking out at the stars. Her ship had destroyed over 60 Corvin vessels during the war. She had kept her promise to the children of New Denver. Final log entry, she said into her recorder. Mission complete. Justice served. The hunt is over. But everyone knew the hunter fleets could be called back at any moment. The ships were kept in reserve, maintained and ready. They served as a permanent reminder of a simple truth that the galaxy had learned the hard way. Commander Roy Mitchell was also coming home. His ship Vengeance had penetrated deeper into enemy territory than any other human vessel. He had destroyed military academies, supply depots, and command centers. He had made the Corvan Empire afraid of the dark. Message to all hunter crews, he broadcast on the secure human military frequency. Well done. The children of New Denver can rest in peace. Years later, historians would mark the New Denver incident and its aftermath as the moment when humanity truly joined the galactic community, not as a minor species seeking acceptance, but as equals who commanded respect through their actions rather than their words. The galaxy had learned a harsh lesson about the price of underestimating human determination. They had laughed at the warning that humans would hunt their enemies forever, until it was too late. Admiral Morrison returned to his home on Earth, where he kept a small garden behind his house. In the garden was a single flower bed with 2 million flowers, one for each person who had died on New Denver. He tended them every day, making sure they never died, making sure they were never forgotten. The hunting fleets were stood down, their crews returning to civilian life. But the ships remained ready, their weapons maintained, their crews on call. Everyone in the galaxy knew they could be activated again at a moment's notice. The simple truth had been proven beyond any doubt. Humans keep their promises forever.